and everyone else who may be watching this later on the recording. My name is Ilana Steinberg, and I am a member of Rodfei Tzedek and Congregation Rodef Shalom, and we're really, really glad that you joined us to learn a bit more about the legislative priorities that Together Colorado is focusing on for this current legislative session. We do have an agenda, so you can put that up, Dan, thanks. And that is that first, we are going to introduce ourselves, and my colleagues will introduce themselves in just a moment before we move on. And then we will give our credentials and share our vision and our North Star, which I'll explain, and share with you some of our prior successful campaigns, which we're really excited to share with you because it makes us feel really empowered when we think about the successes that we've had. And then we're going to get into the heart of it and share our legislative priorities for this year and more details about each of the bills that we're following and key dates. We're going to just briefly share with you sort of how those things work in the legislature. And then the fun part, ways for you to get involved and encourage you to take action, small or big, in the coming weeks and months. And then we'll have a chance for questions and answers at the end. So before I move on, actually, before we do that, let's give everyone a chance to introduce themselves, our co-facilitators. So Dan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm glad to be here with Rodef Shalom. My name is Dan Moen, and I'm from First Universalist Church of Denver, and I'm a member of the Transforming Justice team at Together Colorado.
And John?
Hi, my name is John McAllister. I live up in Evergreen, Colorado. I'm with Together Colorado's Transforming Justice team, and I am very pleased to be here. Thank you.
Thank you both for joining us from your congregations to help round out our presentations today. Moshe.
You did. Okay. Hi, I'm Moshe. I am the Chazan at Congregation Rodef Shalom. I'm on the legislative committee of the Climate Justice Committee at Together Colorado, and I also run Colorado Jewish Climate Action. I spend most of my days thinking about climate change and trying to figure out my small way to make a difference.
Thank you. Appreciate that so much. Thanks everyone for being here. It makes it when we have a team. So thank you. Okay, now we can go on to the credentials. So Together Colorado, who are we? Together Colorado and our political arm, Faith in Colorado, we represent statewide community organizations leading a faith and race solidarity movement. We unlock the power of people through faith-driven community organizing to bring human dignity to the center of public life. We have a radical commitment to developing, training, and equipping leaders to build power to effectively dismantle systems of structural racism and rebuild the beloved community. We aspire to make the way for a Colorado where our government and society reflect a place where everyone has the opportunity to thrive without exception. And we are a member of the international faith-based network, which is called Faith in Action. I love the fact that Together Colorado is multi-faith, multi-race, and we build relationships with each other and work from those relationships to build strength and power. Next, please. Our vision at Together Colorado is of a sacred community where we share a commitment to sustaining the earth and all its inhabitants so that everyone has the opportunity to thrive without exception. Next, please. And our North Star, we like to think about our North Star kind of the way that old seafarers in days of yore used to use the North Star as their guide point, the thing that they always looked to make sure that they were on the right path to where they wanted to go. And so this is the North Star of Together Colorado, which we look at on a regular basis. We pursue campaigns that transform our public institutions so that they constantly prioritize the voice, participation, governance by, and needs of all of God's people and of God's creation. And campaigns that transform our economic systems to serve the needs and the rights of the people and the land of Colorado. and campaigns that establish equity for all Coloradans, particularly those marginalized by race, class, gender, immigration status, religion, or other forms of oppression. So that is who we are. And I'm going to invite my colleague John to share about our past successes.
Thank you. So some of our prior successful campaigns, including our Abolish Slavery Colorado. Colorado was the first state in the Union that abolished slavery, which really is the idea that indentured servitude continues to exist in our prison systems nationwide, with the exception of Colorado. And as part of that movement, we are continuing to work on coercive work in our prison systems. So that's an ongoing thing as well. We have worked extensively on keeping Coloradans housed. We've got 2 bills that we're tracking right now that we'll be discussing later. We've orchestrated and worked with campaigns on the predatory payday loans and had that system significantly revised. And the negative parts of payday loans, much of that has been eliminated. And last year, our Together Colorado focus was on an eyewitness identification issue called show-ups. Eyewitness identification is fraught with problems due to the stress and trauma many people experience in the midst of crime and all of the uncertainty around those situations. And we successfully got a bipartisan bill passed last year to reform a practice and minimize a practice known as show-up identification, where only one person is picked out and there are no lineups or things. We have also done several campaigns on paid family and medical leave and had some success with that as well. There is more information on our Together Colorado website, and I invite you to look at that at your leisure. Later on, we'll have links. Thanks.
And can I just jump in for one quick second, just to give you a tiny bit more information about the Keep Coloradans Housed, because I realized the slide doesn't actually say what the success was. And that was, if you heard last fall about our efforts to support the No on 2F campaign on the Denver ballot, that was what that Keep Coloradans Housed is referring to. We partnered with some other organizations in the community to mount this No campaign to this discriminatory, racist amendment that was being put forth on the Denver ballot to try to get rid of the group living amendments that City Council had passed that we liked, and so we won. We successfully defeated this this 2F amendment and or 2F ballot issue, and that was a huge success for us from an electoral standpoint.
Thanks. So electoral, our legislative agenda for this year includes several criminal justice measures, more housing bills, and climate justice bills, and an immigration bill. And Dan, let's see. Go to the first one, please.
There's this one, and then there's the one that's about interrogation.
Yeah, deceptive. Okay, and so the first one is deceptive tactics, juvenile interrogation systems. So under current law, police can, and Colorado law, there's a couple of states in the country that have already corrected many of these items, but under current law in Colorado, police can lie and use deceptive tactics when interrogating minors so that they can obtain confessions and make plea deals. 38% of youth have been exonerated nationwide when you've gone back and looked at what look at false convictions and false plea deals due to these false confessions. And in the meantime, when they make a juvenile confess to something that they really didn't do, the real perpetrator continues to go unpunished and likely commits more crimes. This bill would prohibit law enforcement from lying to minors during interrogations, and requires them to videotape and to record the conversations. Helping our youth reach adulthood without a traumatizing experience of being lied to by law enforcement means a better and healthier future for our communities. Next slide.
So this slide is HB 22-1067 from Representative Gonzalez Gutierrez, and your Representative Woodrow is introduced by these people. This is a bill that we in some ways we already passed this bill. This is kind of a clearing up some problems that we had with it. This is already passed, but we found out that, or it was found out that what happened is that it left out some of the municipal courts in the states, and that's where there became problems. You have, for less serious arrest, what happens is there hasn't been legislation until just recently that says these people need to see a judge within 48 hours of arrest. Recently, we talked to somebody that was in the Alamosa in the county down in the San Luis Valley, and they talked with us about some of the problems. They only have in small counties, and as people know, there's a lot of small counties in Colorado that people can stay in jails for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks without even seeing a judge. And so this this bond 48 bond hearing, it makes so that there's no longer a loophole, and that people get a chance to get in and see a judge. You understand that currently this bill is doing really well, and it looks like it'll pass this year. So sealing criminal records. This is the Senate Bill 2299, Senator Tipper, Senator Rodriguez, and Senator Hissey. I hope I didn't get the name, pronounce the name wrong. What we found out here is that there are people that, a lot of people are eligible for what we call this clean slate. In other words, to be able to clear your record of any initial or low-level offenses, as it says here. But a lot of people are not able to take advantage of that. It's not either they might not know about it, or there are obstacles, or worse, fees. And of course, this affects your family well-being. If you have a conviction on your record for a low-level crime, and of course, if you say something about it at the time you're trying to get a job or any kind of application, this can get in your way. So this especially hurts low-income people who maybe not have an attorney that would figure this out when you came out of jail and make sure to clear your record. Now, this bill, if it passes, is it'll happen to automatically happen. It's just the process will start, and this bill is good for everybody, but especially good for families in our economies. I was looking here for how this bill is doing. And right now, I think it's just was introduced March 9th. And so we hope this goes very well.
Yeah, thank you. And in fact, that has gone on to appropriations for their consideration.
Great.
So the next bill is the summons and ticketing bill instead of an arrest for low-level offenses. It's being introduced by Representative Bacon and Representative Benavides. The vast majority of arrests in Colorado are for low-level offenses related to mental health, housing insecurity, and substance use. This bill moves us forward to a future where people get the care they need instead of jail time. It also includes things like sleeping on a park bench and minor trespass types of issues where Um, Most of these types of offenses do better for the entire system if you get a ticket, just like a speeding ticket or a motor vehicle ticket, than actually having to be arrested and carted off to jail. Currently, we expect our law enforcement to take on the roles for mental health as a mental health care provider and a social services provider. And they are not trained in these areas. By requiring a ticket instead of an arrest for petty offenses, law enforcement then can take a step back, let others take care of those things, and focus more specifically on public safety. The bill will save thousands in public funds, which can be used for social supports in mental health and housing, and address the root causes of these crimes. This bill has not yet been introduced, and we're anticipating it coming in the next week or so. And this will definitely need our support. Thank you. Next slide.
That's me. So in the area of affordable housing, and thanks, John and Dan, for all that information about the several bills that we're looking at in the justice world. In the area of affordable housing, we have two things that we're really watching. The first is about mobile home park protections. And it's really interesting. Mobile home parks are one of the last forms of unsubsidized affordable housing in our communities, where retirees, immigrants, veterans, and other folks on fixed incomes live. And they're really important to Colorado. If we don't preserve them now, they will just disappear. And this is a bill that is designed to help preserve these communities. Together Colorado works in and with mobile home park residents in Boulder and Jefferson counties. And here's where this bill will help. Keeping people in their homes and in their communities. It's going to expand opportunities for residents to stay in their communities when a park goes up for sale. It's going to require advance notice of ownership changes with adequate time to plan your next steps. And it will require all communication to be provided in English and Spanish. Oftentimes, mobile home park residents don't get very much notice when an owner of the whole park decides to sell. And this is really trying to give more agency to mobile home park residents, who, by the way, part own and part rent. So they're really in a unique situation, and they're kind of stuck in a way that regular tenants who just rent are not stuck. So that's especially why this is really important. The other thing is it will establish sensible annual limits on lot rent increases. This addresses what I just mentioned, so that residents don't get priced out of the place that they call home. I think this is really important for those of us at Rodef Shalom, because we don't live in an area where there are mobile home park communities. Or I'm sorry, Rodef Shalom. I don't know where you live, Eyal, but Rodef Shalom is not in an area where mobile home parks are. But because this is something that we care about as part of the affordable housing picture for the whole state, for the nearby surrounding counties in the whole state, it's really important for us to understand why this matters, and how important this is to people who do make their homes in mobile home parks. The other thing that this bill will do is increase accountability, so that when there are complaints about things that are going wrong, things are broken, need to be fixed in the mobile home park, this bill creates new avenues for those complaints and also for enforcing an investigation, so that mobile home park residents have options if their park owner breaks the law. Because sometimes what can happen is that they can say, well, you're telling me I have to move, but I'm telling you, you haven't fixed this, you haven't done that. And so they don't have any recourse, or they don't have as good of recourse as they could. And so this gives them a chance to have more recourse, more holding the owners of the whole park accountable. So that is the first bill, and it's House Bill 22-1287. It's being sponsored by Representatives Bazenecker and Hooton and Senator Winter. And as you see, it's scheduled to go in the House Transportation Committee later this week. And if you've ever received emails from Together Colorado or emails or texts from anybody you know who's involved with Rodfei Tzedek, asking you to call your representative or call your senator or click this link and text them or email them. This is something that they've just asked us in the last couple of days. I think I got a notice about it on Friday, to be in touch with our representatives. So this is exactly why this program today is so important, is because now we're like, I'm going to be reaching out to the people that I reach out to on a regular basis and asking them to contact their representatives. And this is the bill I'm going to be asking them to contact them about. So that's going to happen. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes in our call to action, but just wanted to point out that this particular bill is something we're asking people to contact their reps about right now to ask them to support it. And by the way, Representative Woodrow, who is currently our representative in Rodfei Tzedek, in Rodef Shalom, he will not be anymore with the redistricting next year, but for this session he is. And I already wrote to him on Friday, and he already wrote back and said yes, he's supporting it. But I know that it's really important for us to continue to write to the people that we know are supporters and encourage that support and thank them for it. So I jumped a little ahead, but I wanted to make sure you knew which one we were talking about. Okay, next slide. Thank you. The other thing that we're looking at in affordable housing is how this humongous sum of money that's called the American Rescue Plan Act, how that's going to get spent. And there are a lot of different causes, all worthy, vying for a lot of different money. For us specifically having to do with affordable housing, there are a number of bills that you can see here coming up. Senate Bill 22-160 provides a revolving loan fund for mobile home parks to access technical assistance for purchasing their parks. So we're still connected to the mobile home park issue here as well. Also, there's approximately $400 million in this American Rescue Plan Act, we call them ARPA funds, that need to be allocated to affordable housing. That's all for affordable housing. So our goal is, how do we say what we want? We have this amazing amount of money. How do we say what we think the best way is to utilize this money to really help us move towards our goals in affordable housing? So these are the bills that are coming up. Senate Bill 22-146, which is CHAFA, which is the Colorado Housing, I looked it up before, Finance Agency, I believe is what it's called, Middle Income Access Program. Senate Bill 22-159, which is another revolving loan fund to invest in affordable housing. House Bill 22-1282, which is for innovative housing incentives, that a program to help with that. And House Bill 22-1304, grants for local governments and nonprofits to promote affordable housing. If these sound vague right now, it's because they are. We don't have any more information about them yet, but we know that these bills are going to get introduced, and that's going to be a lot of great stuff for us to be being in touch with our representatives to ask them to support and to hopefully utilize this amazing windfall of money to move us forward in our goals. Thanks. I think next. Oh, and I noticed that Eyal, sorry, I noticed that Eyal put something in. But I wanted to say, I should have said at the beginning, thank you for putting that in. We are going to collect questions and we will look at them at the end. So thank you. We will definitely address it.
Hi, today, happy first day of spring. I'm talking about Together Colorado's climate justice, or JUICY's bills. And so, right, whether we are black, white, black, or brown, indigenous, or newcomer, we all want to leave future generations a healthy and beautiful Colorado. But Colorado lags far beyond other states when it comes to regulating our air quality. And corporations and industrial polluters continue to emit harmful toxins into the air we breathe every day. Just as a depressing sort of preface to these two bills, the climate agenda this year at the state legislature is not going very well. Not many bills have been introduced, and there doesn't seem to be much of an appetite for bold climate action this year. The legislative committee of the Climate Justice Committee have chosen two bills to focus in on that relate to air quality. One is HB 22-1244, introduced by Reps Kennedy, Gonzalez Gutierrez, and also Senator Gonzalez. And this is a bill that would measure a lot of different air toxins and also would require companies to, that emit, these toxins to report every year on their emissions, and it builds on a previous bill that's already in law, and would also give the state ultimately the authority to reconsider permits for different polluters and emitters. So it strengthens and builds on previously enacted legislation. Right now, this bill was introduced into committee in February and is stuck at the point it hasn't was introduced but hasn't made it to committee. Apparently, the governor and CDPHE are sort of trying to achieve some concessions in the bill, and hopefully someday soon it will make it to committee, but it will probably have some watered down provisions. So that's on sort of a more general air toxins bill. There's also an ozone monitoring bill, which is sort of a larger bill, and we have had, especially last summer, terrible air quality when it comes to ozone. We had a whole, I don't know exactly the number, but many, many days last summer where we had high ozone alerts, where it was essentially unsafe, to go outside, especially for kids in vulnerable areas. They might not have the tree cover that sort of takes some of the ozone out of the air. So that bill is supposed to be coming. Representative Burnett is supposed to be introducing the legislation, but it has not happened yet. So hopefully that will come soon, but we're trying to find out more information and see if we can get a sense of when that might happen. In addition to these two pieces of legislation, I also want to mention the work for a moment that I'm doing with Colorado Jewish Climate Action. We also happen to be focusing on these two specific bills, so that is, great that we also have the same legislative focus. I want to mention two programs that we have coming up. One is a program on this Tuesday, on water equity, and I'll put out the registration link in the chat, and we have some great speakers, and it should be really interesting. It's at 6 p.m. This Tuesday. Another program that we have coming up is April 19th, Tuesday, April 19th. We're having a rally in front of the main Wells Fargo branch downtown to encourage large banks and other asset holders to take their money out of fossil fuels and to invest their funds in renewable energy and in clean energy. So that's coming up on April 19th. We don't have a flyer yet or a Facebook page, but we just decided on the date, and that's coming up. If you want more information about our work, you can go to our Facebook page or to our website. I'll also drop those in the chat. And we have lots of exciting things coming up, so check it out.
Okay, this is talking about immigration. Well, it's really, this bill is, I can't see the number right there, but this bill is being sponsored by Representative Gonzalez Gutierrez and Representative McCluskey, and along with Senator Moreno. This is the one really important immigration, or bill that we have before the legislators this year. And although it's the only one, it's very important. We know we have a lot of people in our state their citizenship status is unclear at this point. These people are a part of our community. These people are people that we see all the time, and they deserve to be supported, and they deserve to have health care. the focus here, as you see, is on the is around pregnancy. And that comes to them through the CHIP program. The CHIP program is a low-income program that helps low-income people, but in this state, we're able to use it because of the fact that if you couldn't prove citizenship, then you couldn't take advantage of the CHIP program. But this bill will allow you to get this coverage. And there's many things that it covers, the CHIP program, to help young mothers before they're, when they're pregnant, and help them with health care so they can work through the system and have healthy babies and children, people that can grow up in this country and be excellent citizenship. So that bill is coming up, and don't know, I'm sorry, not sure where it is in the system right now, but we'll let you know if we need help with signatures and other kinds of letters.
John, you're muted.
Next.
Thank you. So these are the key dates for our 2022 Colorado legislative session. The session began back on December 1st, and there's been a lot of work that's already gone into the session, and I won't even bother to cover that. But the items coming up are on March 28th, the legislature starts putting together the budget in both the House and in the Senate. Senate follows on April the 5th to fund these things. And this is a critical juncture where these bills are going through committee and being voted on the Senate floor and the House floor, and getting them to pass and pass both the House and the Senate, and then move on to the governor's desk for his signature so they become law. A lot is going to happen in the next 5 to 6 weeks. The session ends on May 11th. So the work on the bills that we've discussed and on some of these other bills comes to a fruition in the next 6 weeks. And that's where we need everyone's help. Thank you.
So we wanted to talk for a moment about why, this is really the substance of the reason that we're giving this presentation. We want to give some background so that people can really get involved when opportunities arise. So why is it so important to engage with legislators? This is really our ability to exercise power as communities of faith, to influence the decisions that our legislators make. In country, right? Legislators don't hear from constituents nearly as often as they do from paid lobbyists. They're people whose job it is to go to the Capitol and every day, reach out to our elected officials, and people who are, ordinary citizens who just care about having a just society are not, there every day. And so it's really important that we do our part to get in touch with them. The legislators, create the laws that affect our lives and our communities. So we have to let them know what we want. And then ultimately, we need to replace unjust systems with ones in which dignity for all people is respected without exception, and this is required by our deep faith in justice. These principles, we can bring them to life. We can manifest them in a variety of ways. One is you can provide testimony for committee hearings, and when you give, I've heard this over and over again. Stories are better than sort of numbers. Tell your story. Now we are able to give testimony remotely via Zoom, so it's really easy. So you don't have to schlep down to the Capitol. You can write letters and postcards, make phone calls. You can email your legislators and set up meetings. You can tweet at them. You can text them. You can attend town halls. There are many ways to get your message to your elected officials. You can support coalition efforts. And then also another way is to write opinion pieces and letters to the editor for your local newspaper and your faith community. And I'm sure Together Colorado, if you have a letter, I'm going off script here, but I imagine somebody from Together Colorado, if you have a letter, would be happy to offer edits and suggestions to sort of make it sharper and punchier to help you out to really get your message across.
I think that's a fair offer to make, Moshe. There are definitely, it's a good point. It's a good observation to make that there are definitely people at Together Colorado who have a lot of expertise in the most effective way to get our message out. So yes, I think that would be a fair thing to offer. So this is the fun part, the call to action. We hope that you have gotten a lot of information. And like I said, we will get to Q&A in a little bit. But we really want we want to encourage you, we want to inspire you to want to act. And we do believe that when we come together, instead of acting just as individuals, we can demand that our elected officials pass legislation that protects the rights of everyone and that makes Colorado a place that centers human life and dignity. We say this over and over and over in Together Colorado. And I think it's really important because we have to remind ourselves, this is our mission. This is our North Star. This is why we're fighting so hard for the things that we are fighting for, is because we value human dignity and human life so much and want a place, want our state to be a place that values that and that makes it livable for all people, not just people of privilege. So to do this, to be part of this, there are several ways you can do this. And John or Dan, one of them, is going to be putting these links actually in the chat as I share them. So one thing is that you can sign up for action alerts through Together Colorado. And I mentioned a few minutes ago when I was talking about affordable housing that we've got one going on right now that we received on Friday. So if you click the link that is going to appear in the chat, this is how you can sign up to get those alerts directly to you. I mentioned that I send them to my friends, but you can also receive them directly from Together Colorado. And most of the time, these are an opportunity to click a link and it'll populate a letter to your rep or to your senator based on where you live. You put in your information, it'll populate it. You can personalize it, which we always encourage. And when I wrote to Representative Woodrow the other day, I did that. I personalized it because we know each other through RODF. And so I wanted to make sure that I acknowledged that fact and I wasn't just writing him a canned letter from a stranger, because I'm not a stranger. But you can also personalize it with any of your own personal stories, like Moshe mentioned a minute ago, any of your own personal reasons. I clicked on a link not having to do with Together Colorado, but I clicked on a link I think that Hayes sent about refugee status in the US a week or two ago to send to the president, I think it was. And I added in there about how important it was that that refugees were allowed to come here after the Holocaust, and how I know how many people in my community are here because their ancestors were allowed, their parents, their grandparents, their great-grandparents were allowed to come here and settle here and reunite with families. And I added that. So personalizing is always such a valuable tool, especially when we're using a pre-populated letter, because they know their assistants, they see the letters and they're like, okay, it's another one like that. When you personalize it, it causes them to read it more. So, but those are easy. Those alerts are super easy. Follow up on the action alert request. I guess I jumped ahead. The first was sign up, then follow up when they send you it and ask you to do it. Find your state legislators. There's this link that I think was just put in or is about to be put in, how you can find out who your legislators are. And again, as I mentioned, some of that is going to shift with the next legislative session, with the election coming up, and also the next legislative session. Many of us will have new representatives based on the redistricting, but that is a great tool to be able to find out who your legislator is if you're writing a letter that isn't through an automatically populated program. And then the last thing is to stay with us for the long haul, get involved. visit Together Colorado's website, ask one of us how to get involved so that we can make lasting policy changes in Colorado. That page that John was highlighting a little while back about our successes, it's so important to remember that. I think we oftentimes feel like the mountain is very high, and it is, but we climb it by little success after little success. And so stick with us and be involved with us. Help us make those changes. So now's the time for Q&A. And Eyal, I know that you have put some questions in the chat and know that Hannah has been collecting them. And if you want more information, you can put your email address in the chat as well, and we can send you directly information. So I think since we just have, it's just 3 questions, right, Hannah? Just 2 in one chat and then a third question?
That's correct.
Okay, so there's a housing question, and there's a transforming justice question, and there's an immigration question. So why don't we just take them in the order that they were asked, which was actually the transforming justice question about the deceptive practices bill. The question is, for the deceptive practices bill, is that for minors exclusively? Is there model legislation that is passed in other states or jurisdictions? So Dan or John, would one of you like to address that, please?
Sure. Oregon and Illinois have passed legislation that I can't say that our bill will be modeled exactly on those terms, but they've thrown the basic idea out there, and it's working in their states. In a similar manner, the summons bill, which has not yet been introduced, the model legislation will be based in part on both Connecticut and New Jersey law. So New Jersey's had a law on the books since 2014, and the thing about that is that we're talking thousands and thousands of people that aren't going into jails and prisons and aren't being stigmatized and affected by the whole arrest item. And imagine all the people that get speeding tickets and motor vehicle tickets if they're not just ticketed but sent off to jail to try to deal with things. So does that help answer your question on the model legislation? Okay, good. If you've got any more, let us know.
Did you address whether it was just for minors?
Yes, it is just for minors.
Okay.
It is just for, and then there are a couple of instances where a judge can, first of all, take into account that juveniles may have been lied to in the past, and can ask for that much more information. And there's a couple of situations built into the bill where the judge can also rule that even though there was deceptive interrogation, that because of other factors, it can be allowable. So it's not absolute, but it should eliminate 95 to 98% of it.
Thank you. And then I have a follow-up question for you, Eyal, on what you asked about the mobile home park bill. When you're asking if it parallels other existing legislation for those without homes. What are you specifically, do you have something you're specifically referring to?
Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I don't get feedback with all the different machines.
Got it.
I don't have anything specific. Just this is all fairly new to me, and so the questions that I have is are there things that are out there? Are there other things that have worked or not worked in other jurisdictions? And you guys have probably thought through all of these things. It's just all very, very new to me.
Sure.
And so my questions were all a bit in, I guess, trying to figure out where to possibly expand or contract.
Okay, so I don't know.
Oh no, now I can't hear you guys. Give me 1 second. I'm so sorry. Okay, I think I can hear you.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't speak honestly to whether there's a parallel with other existing legislation. What I do know is that these mobile home park residents are in a really unique situation because of what I mentioned before, that they partially rent and partially own. And I'm still, honestly, to be honest with you, I'm still really wrapping my brain around all of this information. But so I'm not sure that there would be a parallel to other existing legislation, because I think that people without homes are dealing with there's different kinds of situations, right? So last year, some of the legislation that we worked on had to do with tenants' rights. And that was strictly renters, right? That wasn't in mobile home parks. So that was people in renting situations. And we talked about eviction protections, and we did a lot in last year's legislative session around that. There's a whole other realm having to do with the homeless. And over the summer in particular, we were involved with the safe outdoor spaces, which was not a state legislative thing, but was more a Denver city zoning issue. And we testified, and we, I don't remember if we lobbied, but we advocated a lot for the safe outdoor spaces to be these amazing places that provide a place for people who have no homes at all to live, to get a lot of different wraparound services to help them make it to the next stage of being able to try to move towards having a place of their own. So we have, like, I think it's like a multi-pronged effort every year, and there's just different focuses in different years depending on what rears its head in our awareness. As far as, like, this year, mobile home parks sort of bubbled to the top as something that needed attention and people cared about. And so we worked with legislators to draft legislation, and now we're working to support it. So I don't know if that answers your question, but we're always dealing with different issues that are coming up and that are coming into our awareness. Does that help?
It does. Yes, it's very helpful. I was looking for the possibility of things that tie in. So again, just as I'm learning the space, I was just wondering if it was something that was effective with other populations or in other years or with other legislatures to help push things forward, or to know what I guess what possibly we could be encountering with as we work towards passage. And again, I'm guessing you guys have all gone through this, and you guys have been doing this for years, and I don't know anything, so I'm just trying to wrap my brain around it. That's all it is. But yeah, all this information is very helpful.
Oh, well, I'm sure that I speak for the others of us on this call in telling you how much we appreciate your interest and your asking questions. And yeah, we may have been involved with it for varying numbers of years, but we are all still learning. I for one, do not consider myself an expert on any of this. We are constantly learning. We're constantly trying to understand it and to figure out how we advocate for it and what we advocate for. So having your interest, it helps us learn also. And so exciting to know that you're interested in learning more as well.
You have excellent questions.
Yeah,
excellent.
Really great. You had another question, which was about immigration. So I'll let Dan handle that.
Try my best. Fortunately, you're doing this last, so that I've had a chance to think about it a little bit. Since I'm part of the Transforming Justice, but I worked a lot with immigration in years past with the American Friends Service Committee, and work with families and what have you. So I think that the question is on the immigration bill. Are there other programs besides CHIP where there are restrictions for Colorado residents based on immigration status? I don't know of any other programs. The other thing I thought about was in years past, we had the driver's license bill, because people that had immigration status issues, they couldn't get a driver's license, so they would drive around and not have a license, and then that would get them arouse the suspicions of ICE agents and what have you. And so with driver's license, that had to be approved. And we got that approved that they could get driver's license in the state. It's safe for everybody to have, for every people to have a license and insurance and everything else. It works for us all. And then, but the first 2 or 3 years they did this, they, the way that people who are opposing this got around this is that they only allowed for 1 or 2 driver's license offices to where you could get you can get an appointment to get your driver's license. So we had to go back and fight that. I'm sorry to be going back with all these issues, but I remember this very well. I do remember how difficult it was. And are there other groups also being prevented from having access? I was thinking about that people that have, for a while, what happened is that I mentioned mixed status. I think I mixed status families. So you have a mom, 2 children that were born in this country, and they can certainly are eligible for Medicaid because they're citizens. But oftentimes, but there was also the threat from people that maybe people worried about bringing their children in because maybe ICE would get a hold of the information on the children and find out about them also. So there's this general fear. So this bill, in a lot of ways, will, it's not just allowing people to be able to do this, but not to sit in fear, not to not do this because they're afraid that they will be hauled in front of ICE. And that still is an issue, not like it was, a couple of years ago, but it still is an issue. Anybody else have anything else on that? So I would hope that was helpful, Al.
Any other questions? How often do you get the whole Q&A to yourself?
I know, right? I'm actually not disrupting this time.
Dan, do we have any more slide, or that's
it.
saying goodbye after that?
You know, I was going to share my screen again, and so that I could see if I can get out of this slide here. So because I was going to show Al or others, let me see if I can find this.
Do you want to keep the recording on?
Yes, that would be great. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right now and share screen. And then we have, here is the page for finding your, that we talked about, finding your legislature. And then I'm going to go ahead and see if I can stop sharing. And then I have one more, just one more to share with you, and that's this bill on, excuse me, the action alerts. Let me see if I can find that one. Here we go. Okay, come back. And oh, we have somebody to admit, it looks like. And then I'm going to share my screen. And so here is the other link that you had in the is a link to sign up to get involved in legislative sessions. I also wanted to add that your congregation, I think I sent this to Alana and Moshe, that have, there's a number of things that we've put in there in terms of sample letters and other things that people can have available to them. And so you see, this was for me, so, but I got rid of my name and everything. But you can see there's all kinds of things that you can do. And I'm going to stop sharing. And I want to say one more thing. I loved what everybody said about, Alana especially said about making a personal story. I've been doing this with immigration, and I'm just, you know, I have relationships with every person that I'm voting for. don't have a lot of money to donate, but I do go to talks and let them know what's important to me. I know that Emily Sirota is my representative, and Emily, she has open talks and meetings and stuff like that, and then they remember you, and they're looking for stories. As Alana said, it's paid, paid lobbyists to do this. They want to hear from people, and so I would just want to suggest that that's really important. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. I recognize that it's 5 o'clock. I also recognize that Rabbi Coburn has joined us, and I didn't know if you want to say a word before we officially close and turn off the recording. Didn't know if you wanted to say anything, and no pressure, but I saw that you joined us.
Hi. Yeah, I'm actually sitting in my car. I just came home from the Purim Carnival thing. So just wanted to jump on to just, say that I'm glad that this is happening, and I'm glad that it's recorded so folks can watch.
Yeah. Stick around after we turn off the recording. I just want to just say thank you so much for coming to this, for joining us, for learning with us, for letting us share. It helps us learn and get stronger in how we do our advocacy as well. At least I feel that way. And thank you to John and Dan and Moshe for being part of this, and to Hannah, our amazing tech support, for making this go smoothly and us not have to worry about the tech aspect of it. So thank you very much for that. And I put down the email address that was added in the chat, so we can definitely be in touch with you. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's stop the recording and we'll.
Thank you.
Yeah.